This is Bia, Becoming in Action, a space to explore the lifelong journey of growth as leaders, as professionals, and as human beings. Through honest conversations and lived experience, we evolve with courage and intention. Here's your host, Sandy Abear.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast. This one's going to be emotional. As many of you may know, Mother's Day came late for me. I got a true gift when I got to be with all three of my boys for a week. Grant came home from California and surprised me. We spent the week together. We spent a lot of quality time together. Everyone got along. It was relaxing. It was enjoyable. And it felt like true connection. It was really special. Gerard and Grant got to go out to dinner. Grant, Drew, and Luke went and got Mr. Freeze together. Grant and I went golfing several times. We had family dinners. We played games. We made favorite foods. It was a really, really special week. And I guess it's only fitting that because my Mother's Day came late, my Mother's Day musings are also coming late. Ever since Mother's Day, I've been struggling a little bit. I've been feeling very emotional. I worked through that with my coach, who has been super helpful to me, about what it was that was bothering me so much. And it started out with me feeling like I think a lot of moms do. We put a lot of expectation on Mother's Day. We think that if we're good moms and good wives, our kids and our partners will show up for us in a way that really hits the mark and really makes us feel loved. And all it does is create expectations that are generally unmet and makes us feel worse. That is a lot of pressure to put on people and a single day to carry so much meaning. Frankly, I don't know why we still even have Mother's Day. It just feels like so much pressure and so little fulfillment of the dreams that we shouldn't do it. We should just honor our moms every day and love them alongside regular life. And for me, it was definitely those things this year that felt tough. But then there was this whole other layer to it that I hadn't quite acknowledged or probably really fully understood. And what I've been sitting with, and it feels really vulnerable, is that I've spent a lot of my life carrying a quiet grief about never having a daughter. For years, I've judged myself for that feeling. When that feeling popped up, I would immediately counter it with gratitude. I mean, I have three great boys. I am a card-carrying boy mom. I have a boy mom sweatshirt. Love my boys. I wouldn't trade them for the world. I am so lucky. There's so many women who can't have children. I should be happy. Like, why am I letting this bother me? Lots of people only have girls. Lots of people only have boys. You get what you get. You don't throw a fit. I have exactly what I'm supposed to have. This is the way it's supposed to be. I've tried all of those platitudes, and it doesn't really work. What I'm learning is that gratitude, that deep gratitude that I do have, and grief can exist in the same place. And as I've said many times before, what we resist persists. So me trying to cram down that this feeling's not real or not important, silly, dismissing it, isn't helping me in any way. And the truth is, this story is not just about this Mother's Day not having a daughter. I think that this feeling has only been growing in me. And the truth is, the story goes back pretty far. When Gerard and I first got married, we really wanted two more children. While he had been married before, he did not have any children. He really took to being a dad to Grant and Drew very readily. And I got pregnant right away, which to me was not a surprise. I'd gotten pregnant very easily with both Grant and Drew. We were overjoyed. We told everyone because I was super naive in thinking that this is how it goes. You want to get pregnant, you get pregnant, and you have a baby. And as it turned out, as many, many women, I miscarried. And it was really hard. It was very emotional. I had no fear. I had no idea that anything would go any differently than it had already gone. And it hit us hard when we miscarried. We always believed that baby was a girl for a few reasons. When we first started dating, Gerard lived in North Carolina, and we would meet in Ripley, West Virginia. It was kind of a halfway point. We probably only did it 3 or 4 times, but they were really meaningful trips. The place is nothing. There's very little in Ripley, West Virginia, if you look it up. But it was very special to us. We said that when we had a baby girl, we were going to name her Ripley. And even saying that now makes me feel emotional because Ripley was both real and imagined all at once. It was a real loss, but it was an imaginary future, a relationship that never really had a chance to exist outside of my heart. And I'm not even sure I talked to Gerard specifically about this, although he's such a sounding board for me. He's heard me talk about this a lot since. After that miscarriage, we struggled to get pregnant again. And we went through fertility treatments for about 6 months. And anyone who's walked through infertility knows it's not just physically exhausting. It wears on your relationship and your identity and your hope. And that's why we only did it for 6 months. We really felt the impact that it was having on us. To me, it felt like it was reducing our life down to this pinprick hole of focus that wasn't allowing any of the other joy and goodness of our life to shine through. And we decided that it just wasn't worth it for us. We felt very blessed with the 2 boys that we had, and that we should just move forward. That was not an easy decision for him. Gerard is an only child. When we got married, he was 42. He never thought that he would have his own children. He never thought he'd have children in his life. He had really never been around children. When we first started dating, he was very nervous. I didn't introduce him to the kids for quite a while. And he would say, I know if they don't like me, I'm out of here. And I would say, you're right. This is my life. If they don't love you and you don't love them, there's no path forward. And watching him become a dad has honestly been one of the great privileges of my life. So for everyone who knows our family, you know Grant and Drew's dad is in the picture. And I am not saying Gerard is their dad in a way that replaces their dad. Gerard has by no means replaced that role, but he has come up alongside them and really helped guide and love and support them as a dad. And I do feel like he deserves that recognition. All the baseball games that Gerard took them to, moving them into college, moving them out of college, with and without me. There were times when I was not around because I was traveling for work, and Gerard did all the things. Watching Gerard show up for Grant and Drew in 1,000 steady, loving ways has been just a gift to me. He has always been deeply present, deeply committed, and an incredible dad. There is no way that I could have shown up and been the mom that I have been without Gerard at my side. So I don't want to diminish that by calling him a stepdad. I just think it's really important. Any parent through marriage who shows up that way deserves that recognition. I guess this podcast is a little bit of a happy Father's Day to Gerard, to celebrate who he is and who he has shown up and been in not only my life, but all of our children's lives. And then we got Luke, our total wild card. After 6 years of marriage and long putting away the dream of having more children, at 39 years old, I unexpectedly got pregnant again. Luke arrived at our lives like a surprise gift. It was hard. It was hard to wrap my head around the shift. I had just taken my first really big role where I was traveling and had a lot more demands on me from my career. So the timing definitely felt less than ideal. But honestly, I'm just so grateful he's here. He brings such a different dynamic to our life, where Grant and Drew are very academic and sports oriented. Luke is much more carefree. He's super smart, but he is not that motivated by external factors. He is deeply grounded in who he is, unapologetically, and it has been really fun to parent him. I'm so grateful he's here. There's something meaningful to me about him carrying on the Hebert last name, which everyone mispronounces, including Gerard and Luke. They have given up. They just say Hebert. It's funny because most people say Herbert. They insert an extra R. But Gerard is from French Canadian roots, and it is French, and it is pronounced Hebert. But if I'm being really honest, I think this ache about not having a daughter has less to do with gender than I once thought. I think it is about legacy and wondering where all of me goes. And social science talks about something called maternal identity narratives. The idea that women often create unconscious stories about what motherhood will mean long before we become mothers. I can remember having my dolls. I loved my dolls. Elizabeth, Mandy, Jenny. I had so many dolls and I loved mothering them. And I was creating from such an early age what it was going to be like to be a mother, what it was going to feel like. And those dolls were always girls. I didn't have a boy doll. I was never a boy mom in my early years of dreaming. They were always girl dolls. For me, and I think for many people, the idea of a daughter has become symbolic of continuity, of emotional closeness, of being remembered, of passing down stories, wisdom, traditions, ways of seeing the world. And I think somewhere along the way, I created this imagined daughter who would carry pieces of me forward. She became the fantasy of deep understanding, of friendship, of shared womanhood, of someone who would want all the wisdom and tenderness I have gathered over a lifetime. And I felt this ache always. It's not new. I definitely felt it diminishing over the teenage years when I saw my friends struggling with their teenage daughters and their sass. And I could kind of chuckle and think, oh, I dodged a bullet. It felt like teenage daughters could be so critical of their moms' personalities and looks and just much more critical of who their mom was as a person and how she was showing up in the world in a way that my boys never cared. Don't get me wrong, my boys have been challenging at every age as well. But I think that they challenged my identity as a person far less than my friends' daughters did. My boys never thought I was embarrassing or uncool or criticized my clothing. So it felt a little less stingy that I didn't have a daughter through my older boy's teenage years. At that stage, it kind of felt like, well, maybe it is easier to have boys. And people say stuff like that all the time. They'll say, oh, you're lucky. Boys are so much easier than girls. And I would always think, I'm a girl. I think I was pretty easy. I think my daughter would be pretty easy. While I always hated when people said that, I told it to myself sometimes just as a little salve on the wound. But now, now it's getting way harder. My friends have adult daughters, and I can feel that old longing rise up again. It can feel like I missed out on something sacred, and I'm continuing to miss out as their daughters navigate weddings and marriage and babies and the time of their life when they really want their mom's support and wisdom. And they're invited into their daughter's inner world in a way that daughters-in-law don't often do. It starts to feel really heavy again. But here's what I'm beginning to understand. Imagined relationships are untouched by reality. Imaginary daughters never pull away. They never reject your advice. They never become separate people with their own wounds and struggles and boundaries. They stay emotionally available forever. And in many ways, that is what we do with so much of life. We create these emotional fantasies about how motherhood will feel, about how Mother's Day will feel, how relationships will unfold, how meaningful moments are supposed to look. Then reality, which is human and imperfect and complicated, struggles to compete with the dream. That doesn't make the grief fake. It just means that some of what I've been mourning is not only what did not happen, but also the story I attached to what it would have meant if it had happened. And maybe this is the deeper work of becoming. Learning to stop shaming ourselves for the feelings we carry. Learning to hold grief and gratitude at the same time. Learning that acknowledging a longing does not negate the beauty of what is already here. Because I can deeply love my sons. I can feel profound gratitude for the family I have. I can admire the father Gerard has been. I can feel joy that Luke carries on the Abear name. And I can also acknowledge the tenderness of the daughter-shaped space that exists in my imagination. Both things can be true. Maybe maturity is not finally getting rid of those tender places. Maybe it's learning to sit beside them with honesty instead of shame. And that is what I'm learning right alongside you. Thanks for listening. See you next time.